Today, we're looking at something that could genuinely redraw the geopolitical map. We're talking about the recent, very coordinated, multi-directional attacks by Iran and Qatar against Israel. This wasn't just some random flare-up. It feels meticulously planned, a strategic move. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Absolutely. And when you dig into the analysis, you see just how many strategic layers are actually involved here. These actions, well, they clearly have the potential to reshape the power balance right across the Middle East.
And the ripples could go global, couldn't they?
Oh, definitely. We could see effects extending much further.
So our mission for you today is really to get beyond those initial headlines. We want to explore the strategy underneath, the politics, the psychology involved, and that broader geopolitical picture. But also, crucially, not lose sight of the human cost. Think of this as maybe a shortcut to connecting the dots properly.
Exactly. Helping you grasp the really profound and complex impacts these actions have. Pulling out details you might otherwise miss.
Okay, let's dive right in then. The nature of the attacks. The term that keeps coming up is calculated multi-front operation. That sounds very different from just a minor skirmish. Can you unpack that for us? What does that label tell us?
Yeah, that distinction is critical, a skirmish. That suggests something limited, maybe even reactive, almost accidental, but calculated multi-front operation, especially with Iran and Qatar coordinating. That signals deliberate intent. It signals capability
and confidence.
And a high degree of confidence, frankly. It's a statement. It's designed to force the international community to sit up and notice a shift in regional power. It's way beyond just causing immediate damage.
So it's about sending a message, a complex one.
Right.
But militarily, there's talk of a certain, genius in these multi-front operations beyond just breaking through defenses.
Yes, and this is a really profound point from the analysis we looked at. It's not just about destruction. These operations are designed strategically to create deep uncertainty, and maybe even more importantly, to learn.
Learn? How so?
By pushing Israel's sophisticated defense systems right to their absolute limits. You test them, you watch how they respond under intense pressure. It's almost like creating cognitive overload for the decision makers.
So you turn their own strength against them?
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
Their advanced defenses become liabilities because responding reveals vulnerabilities. Things a single isolated attack just wouldn't expose. It's basically intel gathering for whatever might come next. A meticulous probing for weaknesses.
Yeah, that's unsettling. Using an attack to force the defender to show their hand.
Okay, beyond the physical damage in the intel gathering, what about the psychological side? For people on the ground, how do these multi-directional attacks ramp up that feeling of fear and uncertainty?
Oh, massively. Because the threat feels like it's everywhere, omnipresent. When danger can literally come from any direction, anytime, it just eats away at that basic sense of security.
For everyone, civilians, soldiers, everyone faces this constant draining anxiety, always on alert, never sure where the next hit is coming from. It's textbook psychological warfare, designed to break confidence, create this unbearable vulnerability, much more effective than a predictable attack from one direction.
That psychological pressure must be immense, and it must spill over into politics too, right? Especially when you factor in that Iran-Qatar coordination. That seems like a really big deal here.
It is exceptionally significant and very revealing too. This isn't just about having a common enemy. It shows alliances in the Middle East are, fluid, yes, but also incredibly potent when goals align. We're seeing them driven by specific, often quite pragmatic strategic aims, maybe not just old ideological ties.
So practical goals, bringing them together.
Exactly. And this kind of effective collaboration where their aims clearly meshed, it directly challenges Israel's established position in the region. It turns what might look like local fights into issues with genuinely global consequences.
That's a key point. Actors you might not expect aligning powerfully when it suits them. So how does this force international players, the US, Europe, others, to rethink things, their policies, their assumptions?
It forces a major reset, a hard reset. This level of coordination basically makes international actors, tear up their old playbooks.
Really? Tear them up?
Figuratively speaking, yes. They have to completely rethink their strategic assumptions, their alliances, how they might respond, because the whole regional calculation has shifted. Dynamics they thought were stable are suddenly revealed as highly volatile. It demands immediate and probably quite difficult policy shifts.
from everyone. And the timing. This wasn't just random, was it? Attacks like this rarely are. What calculations do you think went into striking now? What message were Iran and Qatar trying to send beyond just the immediate impact?
The timing, strategically, you could argue it was brilliant, carefully calibrated, likely considering political events, maybe their own military readiness, maybe even where global attention was focused or distracted.
Seizing an opportunity.
Perhaps it sends a clear message of initiative. A signal they're willing to act decisively, maybe seizing a perceived window. There's that saying, in geopolitics, timing often matters more than firepower. A well-timed move can reshape the whole landscape faster than sheer force sometimes.
Let's shift focus now to Israel itself. The challenges here are immense. Our analysis suggests this tests, well, pretty much everything. Defense systems, leadership resilience, strategy, public confidence. It sounds like an all-encompassing pressure, almost existential.
It absolutely is. The tactical complexity of defending against simultaneous attacks from multiple directions, you just can't overstate it. Even incredibly effective systems, like Iron Dome, they have design limits.
Right, they can't stop everything, especially not all at once from everywhere.
Exactly. When threats converge like that, maybe using new tactics, decision makers are forced into a kind of triage. Prioritizing threats, deciding which ones to intercept and which ones, well, might get through, at least temporarily.
A terrible question. What happens when even your best shields get overwhelmed?
And every single choice carries enormous weight, made under intense real-time pressure.
And beyond the technology, the psychological impact on civilians. That idea of danger from anywhere, anytime. What does that do to society?
It's deeply corrosive. Soldiers are trained for vigilance, but for civilians. The reports highlight this palpable erosion of just normal daily life. The constant anxiety, the uncertainty, it disrupts everything. It's designed to sow distrust, even in the institutions meant to protect them. Makes every public space feel unsafe.
It hits hard at a fundamental level.
It does. As one analysis put it, in warfare, morale can be as decisive as munitions. And these multi-front attacks seem explicitly designed to hit both hard and systematically.
Which puts Israel's leadership in just an impossible spot, doesn't it? The public demands a swift, strong response, but hitting back too hard risks massive escalation. How do they even navigate that?
They are absolutely caught between a rock and a hard place. Unequivocally, every move they make is under this intense international microscope. Allies watching, maybe worried about overreach, adversaries looking for weakness or hesitation.
The whole world watching.
The whole world interpreting their intent. So leaders have to navigate this maze where tactical choices crash right into political, diplomatic, public pressures all at the same time. Often, like you say, no good options, just less bad ones. It's a profound test of political nerve, not just strategy.
And then there's the practical side, resources. These attacks must stretch everything thin. Supplies, energy, people.
Oh, completely. It's not just military assets.
Hits the civilian side hard too.
Precisely. The deep dive shows modern conflict is as much about keeping society functioning under extreme stress as it is defending borders. Critical civilian infrastructure, hospitals, power grids, communications, emergency services becomes a kind of secondary battleground. Hospitals get swamped, power grids strained, services stretched incredibly thin, all while managing the immediate threat. It really underscores how systemic these attacks aim to be.
So ultimately, this forces Israel to reassess some fundamental ideas about predictability, about deterrence, about how neighbors might behave.
It's a stark wake-up call, no question. Traditional ways of calculating risk, planning responses, they might just not be enough anymore.
Because threats can pop up anywhere, anytime.
Exactly. Simultaneously from unexpected places, it tests flexibility, adaptability militarily and politically. The message is pretty blunt. Preparation has to be continuous, innovative, and unrelenting. Otherwise, the consequences could be truly severe.
Let's widen the lens then, because these ripples, they spread far beyond the immediate region, don't they? Across continents. When two regional players coordinate like this, the world takes notice. Governments, investors, everyone's recalculating. What's the biggest wake-up call here for, say, the US and Europe?
Well, for them, it's a pretty uncomfortable reminder, I think, that their old strategic assumptions about the Middle East might just not hold anymore. Washington relies heavily on Israel as a partner, so now it faces really complex choices. How to show support act decisively, but avoid triggering a much wider conflict. It's a tightrope.
And Europe.
Europe's deeply tied economically, diplomatically. They also have to navigate this really delicate balance. As one report put it, great powers are tested not only by what they do, but by what they failed to do. Perceived inaction or the wrong action can look like weakness. It's a high-stakes game.
And it's not just the global powers feeling the heat. What about other countries right there in the region? The Gulf states, Turkey, Egypt, they must be scrambling.
It instantly makes their strategic environment much more volatile, much less certain. For these neighbors, it forces an immediate and probably quite uncomfortable rethink of their own alliances, their security needs.
Do they hedge their bets? Pick sides.
They have to weigh the risks of getting drawn in versus potential strategic gains. Do they lean into new partnerships? Do they try to solidify existing ones? This constant reshaping of regional alliances. That's actually one of the most significant, though maybe less visible, consequences of attacks like these.
And then you have powers like China and Russia. They're watching very closely, I assume. What opportunities might they see in this kind of volatility?
Oh, watching very keenly, yes. The analysis suggests they're looking for openings, opportunities to strengthen partnerships, exert influence. They'll be assessing shifts in energy markets, disruptions to trade routes, how political alliances might rearrange.
Different angles for each.
Potentially. For Moscow, destabilization sometimes offers chances to boost regional influence. Beijing will be scrutinizing the impact on, say, its Belt and Road initiatives, its energy security. These aren't abstract calculations. They shape global policy, investment, even military posture. Regional aggression becomes a test of global patience, global strategy, global adaptability. The consequences really do spread far and wide.
And I feel it economically too, right? Markets react, investors get jumpy, trade routes.
Absolutely. Tangible impacts. The most immediate and significant economic ripple highlighted in the deep dive is that pressure on global energy routes and shipping lanes.
Oil prices, supply chains.
Exactly. Conflict isn't contained. It quickly hits people's wallets worldwide. Higher energy prices, disrupted supply chains. Investors pull back from risky areas. Financial systems feel the jolt. It just underscores how tightly linked global security and economic stability really are.
So it all comes back to challenging these fundamental ideas. Deterrence, the credibility of alliances.
Precisely. Actions like these by Iran and Qatar show that regional powers can act decisively, and will, if they perceive an opening or weakness. It forces global powers to reassess not just their strategies, but their own readiness, their commitment to existing security pacts. And, in geopolitics, perception is often just as powerful as actual capability. That appearance of decisive action, it can shift alliances, trigger reactions, redefine global influence, sometimes more than the immediate military results.
As we draw towards the end, it feels vital to bring it back to the human cost. We talk strategy, alliances, tech, but it's people who bear the brunt, the fear, the loss, displacement, services cut off. When infrastructure gets hit in these attacks, what's the most immediate devastating effect?
It's the catastrophic impact on basic utilities and infrastructure, the backbone of daily life.
Yeah.
Water, power, roads, communications, hospitals, they're often the first casualties. When they're damaged, it instantly cripples the ability to respond, to get aid where it's needed. The analysis is stark. War does not pause for bureaucracy. The social costs just mount incredibly fast, much quicker than they can be fixed, leading to a rapid breakdown.
And that breakdown forces people from their homes, creates refugees. Beyond the physical danger, what's the long-term psychological damage there?
It's immense, and it lasts. The trauma, the uncertainty, especially for children, it lingers for years, even generations. Our insights really show how war reshapes communities, leaves lasting scars. It fuels mental health crises, fractures social bonds, causes this deep loss of identity, of belonging. It's a hidden cost, but profound.
And how does that human tragedy connect back to the economy, even in places not directly hit?
It's a damaging domino effect. Local markets don't just collapse from bombs, they seize up from fear. Fear of attack, fear of instability, commerce is suppressed, movement hindered, education disrupted, jobs vanish, families struggle for basic goods, food, medicine. Conflict destabilizes entire livelihoods.
It spreads outwards.
Right. As one analysis put it, it turns security threats into these deep systemic societal crises that spread through every layer, making inequality and suffering worse, even in areas that seem untouched.
So the ripple effect across the region is undeniable. Neighboring countries face refugee flows, security pressures, tough diplomatic choices, and all this just increases the risk of miscalculation, of accidental escalation, doesn't it?
Exactly. Each neighbor has to balance humanitarian needs with its own stability, its own security concerns, often under intense international pressure. What becomes clear is how regional instability spreads like contagion. A localized attack can quickly morph into a broader crisis with totally unpredictable outcomes. A humanitarian crisis in one place becomes a security problem next door, forcing everyone regionally, globally to react under escalating pressure.
So wrapping this deep dive up, what does this all mean for you listening to this, maybe watching events unfold from afar? We've touched on calculated strategy, surprising alliances, huge challenges for Israel, global shockwaves, and that profound human cost. It's clear these attacks aren't just another news item. They feel like a crucible moment, shaping not just the Middle East, but potentially the wider world.
I think that's right. The core takeaway, for me, is just how deeply interconnected our world is now. Actions in one region, especially executed with this kind of intent and coordination, can rapidly redefine the global strategic map. They challenge long-held assumptions about dominance, about deterrence. They force a fundamental rethink of international relations.
So here's a final thought for you to consider, building on all this. Given how profoundly these events challenge traditional ideas about deterrence and regional power, what existing global alliances or security frameworks do you think might be most vulnerable right now? Vulnerable to being redefined by similar, unexpected, coordinated actions in the near future. It's definitely something to keep thinking about as you do your own deep dive into what's happening around the world. Keep watching, keep questioning, keep learning. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.